the night before the Nintendo Switch Direct, and all throughout my house, not a creature is stirring, not even the electric mouse. Like, again, this is, what? Like, let's see, like 12 hours remaining. You know, we're on, like, the dawn of we're on the dusk of the final day. You know, the sun is set. When it rises again, we are going to bear witness to an hour's worth of footage regarding the Nintendo Switch 2. And in the next couple of days, we're going to get something that's probably going to be better than, like, the past, like, the last decade of, like, E3s. Right? This is going to be, like, insane. I think people are really underestimating just how much an hour's worth of footage is actually going to be. Like, of course, I think they're going to primarily be talking about, like, you know, the hardware itself and stuff like that, new features and stuff like that. They keep teasing the C button thing, which makes me think it must do something really spectacular. But, like, with all said, there's nothing we can really say that for certain at this point. You know, like the mouse functionality is an open secret at this point. But we have no idea what the C button does. Maybe it's like a community posting, which is what I hope to see, right? But whatever, we'll have to see what that is. But when it comes to like actual hardware, you know, I think it's safe to say this will be like a basic bitch, like iterative upgrade to the Switch, similar to like the Game Boy Color or the the DSi, right? Something of that nature, right? Not really a replacement for the Switch, even though the Switch 1 is going to outsell the PS2 because of the success of Tomodachi Life and the upcoming final years of the Switch, right? The Switch 1 is absolutely going to outsell the PS2, and the Switch 2 is going to be a major, major success. Right now, you know, on the twilight hours of the final day, you know, people are still coping and seething. You know, I'm seeing a lot of articles doing damage control, trying to tell you that, like, Nintendo could screw this up. You know, I'm seeing people, like, saying that Nintendo's going to go woke, or that, like, they don't understand their franchises, or that, like, they've abandoned the home console market. You know, I'm seeing all kinds of crazy copes in regards to, like, the Switch 2. But, like, it's safe to say at this stage, this console is going to be a major success. Nintendo has a ton of games coming up, and it's just a matter of, like, what exactly are they going to show off? Because I think a lot of that is up in the air at this point. We don't really have that clear of an idea. And I do think at this stage, we do need to talk about, like, you know, what we can expect to see, what we want to see, like what's going to happen. And I do think people, again, I do think people are massively underestimating just how many games are going to be shown at this thing, because the past 2 years haven't really had a lot of big budget games on the Switch. So, like, Mario Kart 9 by itself is going to demolish, like, basically everything else that comes out this year. Like, it's very possible that Mario Kart is going to outdo GTA 6, right? Like, I'm not even really exaggerating with that. With GTA falling off and, like, just losing relevancy and popularity while Mario Kart just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, Mario Kart absolutely has the capacity to outdo Grand Theft Auto. So does Animal Crossing. But, like, at this stage, like, you know, before we know anything about this game and what it's going to offer, like, there's just no way of knowing, like, is this going to be better than Mario Kart 8? Like, I find that really hard to believe, because, like, Mario Kart 8, I think, at this point it's safe to say it's the best racing game ever made. You know, it's stayed relevant for the past decade. It's gotten new content in the past couple of years. Every time I play it, I'm just kind of blown away by it. You can, like, argue about, like, some aspects of the quality. You know, like, I really detested the Mario Kart Tour tracks and stuff like that. But, like, all in all, 96 tracks in that game. That's like an insane amount of content for a game like that. And yeah, Mario Kart 9, I think, going by what we've seen, could potentially expand on that exponentially somehow. We'll have to see like what it is, but I do think like going by the trailer, it seems like the vibe is different, the tone is different, right? Like I think this game is gonna have a really interesting new twist that just completely radically changes the way Mario Kart works. So I don't think it's going to be a simply like a better looking version of 9. I do think we're going to see quite a lot of changes for the series, and we'll have to see just what those are. There's no way to say at this point, but that's my expectation. And like the other big thing that I think like really needs to be acknowledged, I keep seeing people do this where they're sitting there like, oh, why is Nintendo posting about Donkey Kong all the time? Why do they have a theme park? Why did they port Donkey Kong Country Returns HD to Switch? Like they keep doing this, and they don't seem to understand the obvious. Looking at Donkey Kong's redesign, looking at like some of the things they've done recently, like Donkey Kong is 100% getting a new game in the near future, right? Like to me, it seems like they're gearing up to bring the character back in full force. After like losing Rareware and like their critical partner with the IP, they've kind of struggled to keep the Donkey Kong brand relevant, right? And it's not their fault, obviously. It's those hacks at Rare who sold out at the first opportunity. But like, it's been 30 years since Donkey Kong Country, and now I think it's time for something like really fresh, new, and original featuring the character. And like, considering the redesign in Mario Kart 9, considering like his role in the movie, considering some statements Miyamoto has made, considering like the theme park expansion, like I think one of the big headlining things coming out for the Switch 2 will be a Donkey Kong game. I do think we will see a Luigi's Mansion style, like just like Donkey Kong Adventure, like developed with some major Nintendo partner, perhaps in house actually. But I do think it's like very possible we'll see something that like harkens back to the character's roots, like kidnapping Pauline, fighting Mario, like I think it's very possible we'll see something like that. And I've always said that, I've always maintained that. That's always been like, that's been something that I've been saying for a while now. But like, it needs to be understood that Donkey Kong is absolutely an iconic Nintendo brand and will eventually make a comeback. you know. But I'm curious how well it's going to be received, because I grew up in the era where like people coped and seethed about everything that came out. Like Donkey Kong Country 3 was hated. Donkey Kong 64 was like one of the most infamous games on YouTube for a long time. I was tricked into like hating. I was tricked into thinking that like the Jungle Climber games weren't good. Donkey Konga, Jungle Beat. I heard so many people crying about them, about how they weren't as good as Country. And then, like, Country Returns came out, and the same people spent the following decade, like, complaining about that game as well, and its sequel. So, like, it's really interesting to kind of see, like, the cultural shift over the past several years. Like, a lot of, like, Nintendo IPs that used to be toxic have kind of died down and become, like, irrelevant, like stuff like Star Fox, the Metroid thing, Paper Mario's calming down. But we're also seeing really weird situations in which franchises, like fan bases that didn't used to be toxic at all, Pikmin, Luigi's Mansion, Donkey Kong, like they're getting worse with time, right? And I don't know, like, whether it's just demographics or like just the people who have grown up with different games or different experiences, but like, the culture has shifted a lot. So like when it comes to Donkey Kong, like the big thing right now is that like people are seething about not getting new 2D games. So like if the game we get is 3D and it is explicitly not tied to like the Country series, like I expect a lot of people are going to seethe about that. They're going to cry. But we'll have to see about that. Yeah, but that was like my big major prediction, like going by what I've seen uh from Nintendo recently, is that I do think like Donkey Kong is going to be like a big headlining thing. Um I do think we are going to see something Splatoon related immediately. I do think we are going to see some new IPs in there, potentially from Monolith Soft. I do expect like Xenoblade Chronicles X2 to get produced at some point, but like I do think Monolith Soft has expanded to the point where like they should be able to handle smaller projects. Because I would love for them to like make a new IP with a different combat system. I'm a huge fan of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, specifically 3, not any of the others. But like I really don't care for the combat system at all. So hopefully they like change it and make it more turn-based, or like make it like an action RPG or something. I think they could really own that. Like imagine like the blade system from 2, but with like actual action RPG mechanics, kind of like Astral Chain. Like that could be really cool, right? I always really wanted that, and I'm very very curious about the future of the company and what they contribute, because right now it seems like they're the fan favorite studio. The narrative is that like, oh man, they're the best Nintendo studio there is. Like it's not true at all. Like Monolith Soft is just like really really good at appealing to people who primarily value games being mature and like taken seriously. Uh, but like, yeah, they're not necessarily the best developers Nintendo has. I would still say like Intelligent Systems is better. Good Feel, like those guys who made Mario and Luigi Brothership are better. Like, their Game Freak is better, right? Like, there are just so many other companies that make better games. Like Monolith Soft seems to excel at making these big, sweeping, epic, like JRPG things, which have their audience, but like are not mainstream at all. Xenoblade Chronicles X is a really, really good example of that. So like I definitely I've always viewed the company as having a lot of potential, but like in a lot of ways they still haven't like really reached the heights some of these other studios have managed. I've always after Mario and Luigi Brothership, it really solidified for me how like the peak JRPG experience right now is coming from smaller developers. Smaller teams who aren't necessarily putting out these big sweeping like cinematically driven things. If anything, like I think the cinematic elements of modern RPGs are really bogging them down. Not making them about the mechanics or like how the game actually feels at all. Like, no, you're just walking down this path until you get to the next cutscene. It's like it's not interesting. It's not fun. They really really need to think about like how to grow their formula, and like they definitely have a lot of potential. X demonstrates that, two Xenoblade Chronicles 2 demonstrates that, 3 demonstrates that, but like Monolith Soft has a long way to go before they're on the same level of quality as someone like as the Zelda team, or the like there are just so many other better teams at Nintendo. But yeah, we could be seeing something new from Monolith Soft. um I think we are going to see something new from Next Level Games, because if you think about it, we haven't seen anything from them since Mario and Luigi Battle League, Mario Strikers Battle League, excuse me, and 2019's Luigi's Mansion 3. So considering the port of Luigi's Mansion 2 that came out last year, I do think that Luigi's Mansion 4 is in development and will be announced at this presentation. That's kind of my feeling on this. I expect that Next Level Games is going to continue developing these games for Nintendo. They are their guys when it comes to Luigi's Mansion now, and rightfully so. They've just really evolved and grown that IP far beyond what like the original dev team managed with the original. A lot of people don't like to hear it, but it is true. And I really hope eventually that they'll like start tackling like something new, because like For the past like 10 years, it's just been like Luigi's Mansion and just I Federation Force, in 2016, was just this amazing original thing, which I think is going to go down as like being better than like Metroid Prime 4, going by like what we've seen from the trailer. Like Federation Force was like this amazing offbeat thing that they put together, threw out there, and just went wildly unappreciated. Like I would like to see something like that, them tackling like an IP that their style of development could lead itself well to. Like I think they could do a great job with a lot of Nintendo IPs. I could see them doing F-Zero or Star Fox or like uh, Donkey Kong even. Like Next Level Games absolutely, I think, really nails that like Western cartoony aesthetic. Much more so than like Rareware Retro did actually. Like, cause I love Donkey Kong Country Returns, but there's something about the models and just like the vibe of like the visuals that just feels kind of off. Like it just doesn't feel like that blend between like realism and cartoony that like the original Rareware games manage. I um I think Next Level Games like is absolutely Nintendo's best Western partner right now because of their output and because of their willingness to like make things that aren't like catered specifically to Western tastes. Because they can make like cartoony visuals. They are willing to like make unpopular decisions when it comes to game design, and they've demonstrated that like they're incredibly good at innovating on like previously established concepts. Like people do not give Dark Moon enough credit for how it threw the formula of the original Luigi's Mansion. It's really dearly unappreciated just how good that game actually is, and I'll be saying it forever. I am very very much looking forward to their Luigi's Mansion 4. So that's my feeling on that. Um, Hmm. I don't think I have any more predictions. I think we're not going to see Pokemon or anything like that. Um, I think let's see. I don't think there's going to be any third-party games at all because I do think they're trying to make like some heroic last stand and trying to go to bat for PlayStation. Because I pointed this out on Twitter. Like, if Capcom had developed Monster Hunter Wilds for Switch 2, it 100% would have done better than what it did on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. Like 100%. And a lot of people are like, in denial about that, but like third parties really are wasting their time and resources developing games for like these inferior consoles. But like those are the ones where they get like, payouts for doing nothing. Like, um, I don't expect to see anything noteworthy from third party developers. Maybe you'll see like one thing that Nintendo is associated with, but that's going to be, oh yeah, yeah. That is worth pointing out. Yeah, I was just thinking this earlier. A while back, like back in like 2019, like Nintendo sent a plant into Platinum Games. So like now that Platinum Games is like shutting down and everyone's leaving and like all the talent is like the rats are fleeing the sinking ship. Like how hard is it going to be for Nintendo to find everyone who's actually worth a shit and then put them at like their own studio producing like action games, single player action games for Nintendo Switch, right? Like how hard is that going to be? Like I don't think it's impossible. Considering Nintendo is like the company that's invested the most in Platinum over the past decade, considering like what's going on there right now and like the smart business moves they've made, like to me, I feel like the problems with management at Platinum all could have been alleviated if they had just formed a closer relationship with Nintendo. And I think it's too late to for Nintendo to acquire them now. I think they're fundamentally worthless. I think they have way too much baggage. I think everyone that like a lot of people who are in control of the company are like actively like pushing it in a bad direction. But like if they could actually like poach all the real talent or like even some of it, and then just kind of like rebuild Platinum, that would be amazing. We'll have to see if that's like ever going to happen, but I mean, in my opinion, it really should have happened like 10 years ago. But like, uh, the way things look now, like Platinum is not really going to put anything out ever. I have absolutely no like. What have they announced in the past couple of years? Like, what are they even working on now? Does anyone know? Like, I don't, and if I did, I wouldn't have any optimism for it. Like, I'm just kind of sitting here with like bated breath, just wondering, fearing, doubting. Yeah. So, with that being said, I think we're gonna see a lot of new IPs. I think there's gonna be a lot of like new partners. I think there's going to like be a lot of exciting new things shown off at this presentation. And I think the big major takeaway from this, like this one showcase, is that the console war is over. Like Nintendo won, Sony and Microsoft had went home. PC isn't relevant, mobile isn't relevant. Like Nintendo cleared them all, and this reality is only going to be driven home with this direct. We're not only going to have a killer direct, we're going to have 2 days worth of like Treehouse live streams after that. So when that happens, we are going to see peak Kino.